So it's the middle of the week, and today I'm going to check out a different trail. So this is the Flat Rock Trail, a lot further south on the parkway than what we usually hike. And this is set up as a nature trail. So there are a couple of signs along the way that explain a few things. A lot of these are old and you can't read them anymore. But I'll see what we find out here. So this sign here just talks about the Blue Ridge Parkway and its history. We're seeing some old friends here that we've already seen on the other trail. That is Sweet Cicely, still blooming. We also have some flowers here that we haven't seen before, like these yellow ones. That, I believe, is Golden Alexanders. Here we have some Solomon's plume, or false Solomon seal in full bloom. And these beetles are certainly loving it, and each other. So here's one of those outdated signs. This is talking about a forest giant, which seems to have disappeared here. There is a fallen tree somewhere there in the back. Maybe that's where it used to be. So yeah, things are always changing here out in the woods. So yeah, the forest changes constantly. We get a lot of fallen trees here. So those old signs don't always tell you what you see. So this sign here tells the story of the American chestnut. This used to be the dominant tree in these forests, and then unfortunately was wiped out by an introduced invasive disease, a fungus, which causes chestnut blight. Now the old trees are all gone, they died, but the rootstock is still standing up, smaller versions. We do see one of these chestnut trees here. So those leaves with the teeth there, that is American chestnut, still coming up from the old rootstock. Every now and then you find a sign like this. So yeah, this is an old trail. So this supposedly is a chestnut oak. You can see those leaves there. That looks like chestnut oak indeed. Here we've got some tree lungwort. This is a lichen. It doesn't look like much right now, but when it rains, it turns a bright green. The mountain laurels are getting ready to bloom here. This sign is talking about Galax. And yeah, we see a lot of Galax plants out here. So these have those shiny, round leaves. And these are now starting to bloom. We've got a couple of these inflorescences already coming up. There are some plants among the Galax here with more grass-like leaves that also send up very similar flower stalks to the Galax. I believe that is fly poison. We have some Indian cucumbers here. Those are the plants with the whorled leaves, that ring of leaves around the stem. And these make the most curious flowers. Look at that. So this sign is introducing us to a cucumber tree, or magnolia. So that's this tree right here, covered in lichens. But if you look up there and check out the leaves, so yeah, you can see those big leaves. So that is a magnolia. This one doesn't have the lobes at the base of the leaves, so it's not the Fraser magnolia, it's the cucumber tree. Here we have Fraser magnolia by comparison. And if you look at those leaves, you can see they actually have lobes at the base of the leaves. I like to call them ears. And that is a characteristic of the Fraser magnolia. Here we have a couple Clintonias, and this one is in bloom. So that's the white Clintonia, or also called speckled wood lily. And this is an awesome spot, because here we have pink lady slippers. It's always neat to find these. So there's a bunch of them in bloom here. We have both white oaks and red oaks here. So the white oaks, as you might know, have these rounded lobes on the leaves, whereas the red oaks have the more pointy leaves. You see these up here. So we are now up on Flat Rock, which is a nice rock outcropping up here with an awesome view into the landscape. Lots of pine trees up here. A lot of this is Table Mountain pine. And as I said, that awesome view into the landscape. This is a great spot to watch the sunset. The habitat here is pretty much rocky outcrop mixed with heath bald. So we have a lot of mountain laurel, a lot of Catawba rhododendron up here, and a lot of plants that like that type of environment. We've got the mountain laurel budding here. We have some blueberries already making fruits. We've got some other awesome plants here. Like over here, we have one called rock harlequin. You don't see this very often. And here looks like we found something that looks like columbine, but not the red columbine. So I'm not quite sure what this is doing up here. You see quite a few of these holes that have been washed out. So here's a sign that explains what's going on here. They call them Flat Rock's bathtubs. And here we're getting our first view of Grandfather Mountain in the distance there. Yeah, if you want an easy hike, short and easy, just half an hour, and a view, this is a perfect hike to do. So the Catawba rhododendron is already in full bloom here, and the mountain laurels are budding. They're coming soon, but not really fully blooming yet. We see the mountain ash now getting ready to bloom too. So they have these pinnately compound leaves, and they should be in bloom really soon, if not already. Some more signage, this one talking about the rhododendrons, which we have already seen up on the top. The shrub that is right underneath the sign here actually is a mountain laurel. So this is not always fully accurate. Now this area has a lot of galax, and you can smell that. It has this slightly skunky odor to it, which is released by the leaves. So yeah, often you smell a patch of galax before you actually see it. And here we've got the first galax flowers in bloom. So they start opening up the flowers at the bottom of the flower stalk here. And then they will eventually open up, going all the way to the top. Evidence of spring ephemerals. We have a couple of trilliums here that have gone to seed. We've still got a few of these sweet white violets in bloom here. So the last of the violets. So here we have a sign talking about hobblebush, but I don't actually see a hobblebush behind it. What we have here is rhododendron. So this sign tells us there's a white oak here, but I think there's only a stump left for that tree. What we do have instead here is some kind of birch. Where we have oaks, we have oak parasites. This is a parasitic plant that lives on the roots of oak trees. This sign introduces us to red maple. And yes, that tree looks like a red maple. So if we look at the leaves that are up on this tree, I don't know if you can see that up there. There's a lot of other leaves in the way here. But yeah, if you look into the canopy, that tree is a red maple tree. We also have something else here. And that looks like it's more of the Clintonias. This sign talks about striped maple. And if you want to see this, you actually have to look around a little bit. Again, the trees and shrubs right behind it are not striped maples. But if we move around over here a little bit, there we see the characteristic foliage of the striped maple. The Canada mayflowers are now pretty much done blooming here. They should be setting seeds soon. This sign is telling us about the eastern hemlock, and these used to be prominent trees in the forest here. Unfortunately, the hemlock woolly adelgid killed most of them, so the trees to exemplify this here are actually dead. They have long been killed by the woolly adelgid. Found another speckled wood lily. This one had its leaves chewed off, presumably by deer. Okay, so here we are at the trail's end, and I hope you enjoyed this brief walk today. A little bit different habitat than our usual phenology hikes.